Daffy Duck, Neo, Samurai Jack, Dexter, a Teen Titans rep. Every single one of these characters is likely to make it into MULTIVERSUS, but which 4 will be added first? What's going on, everyone? I'm Spada. Welcome back to the MULTIVERSUS Living Roster, the community prediction that we all create together. I'm going to go over each one of these previously mentioned characters very soon and make a case for each one. Your job is simple. Hear out the arguments for why I think they make sense, and then cast your vote as to which you think makes the most sense. Before we can discuss those 5 characters though, we have some business to attend to from the last episode. First, we have to cover the results of last episode's poll. Last week, I asked you all who you thought was most likely to occupy the space that is presently occupied by Aku. Here were the results. It looks like Mojo Jojo won the poll as the most likely candidate, so he will be replacing Aku in our living roster right now. This whole effort is a community-based one, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate those of you that show up every episode to vote. I also love that there are so many of you that have input and choose to leave that in the comments. As such, I'd like to highlight my favorite 2 comments and reply to them. The first one comes from DJ's Family of Nerds. Freddy would be incredible. My wife is a huge horror movie fan. The more we get, the better, because that means she's even more likely to play with me. DJ is one of my viewers from years ago, so it's awesome to see him back. And DJ, that's so cool. My wife doesn't care much for horror, but she does put up with them for me. But I will say that some of the most fun that I have in MULTIVERSUS is playing with my wife. So let's hope that Kruger does eventually make it so your wife has a good excuse to play with you. The other comment comes from Cheapnessness5481, who says, Jason's license is way harder to deal with than Freddy's. But MK9 being delisted from digital gaming stores gives me pause. He's not improbable, maybe just not likely right now. I'll say Mojo just to be safe. See, this is another reason that I love you guys getting so involved in the comments. I completely forgot about Mortal Kombat 9 getting pulled from digital stores. And though we don't know for sure that this was due to Freddy, it could well have been. I still think that Kruger stands a solid chance throughout the life of MULTIVERSUS, but yes, I do think that Mojo Jojo was the safest choice. And with that, we've done what I think is a pretty solid job of predicting the next 4 villains likely to make it into MULTIVERSUS. But one of the topics I've avoided so far is hero characters, and that was mostly due to the theme of the first season of MULTIVERSUS' release being villains. But now we've predicted some pretty decent options for villains, and I'm left wondering, what about all the other references in that launch trailer? Well, today we'll look at 5 of those referenced characters and discuss which ones are likely to make it the soonest into MULTIVERSUS. Before you have a chance to say anything, you might wonder why I'm not including Powerpuff Girls, and that's because they're already on our living roster. See? Right here. Look, after their direct reference in the Joker gameplay trailer, it's pretty much a given that they're coming in soon, so it's not even worth having to vote for them. Them showing up in MULTIVERSUS is just a matter of time at this point. Let's start with the first directly referenced character, Daffy Duck.
Faster, faster! She'll never get away as long as Sergeant O'Duck is on duty!
Did you notice this part of the trailer? It's super easy to miss. I definitely missed it on my first watch. But this right here is a direct reference to this classic bit done in the Looney Tunes.
Rabbit season! Duck season! Rabbit season! Duck season! Rabbit season!
This very clearly is a nod to Daffy Duck, which makes a ton of sense for a lot of reasons. Firstly, having Bugs Bunny in the game and not Daffy Duck seems, well, strange. If you're older like me and grew up with Looney Tunes, you know that Daffy and Bugs' rivalry is legendary. So not being able to pit these two against each other is definitely strange. Well, so that's 2 really solid reasons for Daffy, right? Well, there's another great reason. During the MULTIVERSUS beta phase of testing, there was a fan of the game that put through an immense amount of effort to create a concept for a Daffy character in MULTIVERSUS, complete with a 3D model and animations that he posted on Twitter, and that went fairly viral within the community. Well, that guy, that insanely talented fan artist, well, he was hired by Player First Games to be a 3D character animator. I genuinely cannot imagine a better piece of evidence that Daffy Duck is going to be in MULTIVERSUS than that the developer themselves hired the guy that created a viral fan concept of the character for the game. But okay, it seems like he's likely. Most of us probably already felt that way, but what about his moveset? Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. Daffy is in many ways very much like Bugs Bunny, in that they both started off as practical jokers to serve as foils for bitter hunters. But over time, the characters evolved and Daffy ended up becoming sort of like a less successful and more angry version of Bugs Bunny. So I expect they definitely include some of his pranks in his moveset like they did with Bugs, but I also think that they'd include his screw-ups too. Like, it'd be hilarious for him to have a move where he grabs a stick of dynamite that he's about to throw and it blows up in his face instead. It's hard to predict exactly what they do because there are just so many options, and especially with Player First Games creativity. The next character to be teased in the trailer was Neo.
My name is Neo.
Oh, what? You don't believe me? Well, okay, then I want you to focus your ears very closely to this moment. You heard that right. Well, if you didn't know, that sound is a direct reference to The Matrix, which makes this moment the second reference to The Matrix in this trailer if you include the WB logo that pops up for a split second at the beginning. Now you might be saying, but Spada, that's obviously just for Agent Smith, who got revealed later in the trailer, and I'd say, you have a good point, but you're missing something. Can you point out one moment in the trailer that directly referenced Jason or Friday the 13th before he was shown? That's because, unless there's one that's still hidden, there wasn't one. No, I think this was a subtle but direct reference to not just The Matrix, but Neo directly. And why? Well, because what is Velma doing in this moment that sound plays? Does that not look familiar? Now with all of that, I hope I've made my point, but if I haven't, I think most of us would agree that having Agent Smith is very clearly enough indication that they plan to release Neo at some point. So how would Neo play? This is one of those moments where I wish we had Agent Smith so that I could see how they translated his moveset, but even still, Neo has a range of different weapons, moments, moves, and attacks, and just abilities that could be used in a moveset. And he could even have a reset heart ability to support a teammate, referencing his moment with Trinity in Reloaded. He could have a move where you hold a button and he automatically dodges for a limited time, kind of like UI Goku does in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Neo even gets the ability to fly in the second and third movie, so I think that could be shown as well. Next, let's discuss Samurai Jack.
Do not worry. I have only begun to fight.
The next directly referenced character in the trailer. We've already talked about his reference from the originally discussed Aku, but just in case you missed it, or even if you just want a simple reminder, here it is. Samurai Jack is an insanely popular character, one that actually came back for a short revival series not that long ago, and as I understand it, that was received quite well. Now, I'll be fully transparent here, I'm not a huge Samurai Jack fan, but that's only because I haven't sat down to watch the series. But I love the art style, and it's on my list of series to watch with my son at some point in the near future, so eventually I'll be caught up to you other massive fans. But either way, I know how important of a character he is to his fans, and I think it's absolutely a certainty that he's on his way. That katana in the trailer wasn't there for nothing. It's really like all of the other characters we're discussing, just a matter of time. In terms of moves, Jack is a samurai, so I think it's pretty straightforward what you could do with him. As I mentioned, my familiarity with him is limited, but as I understand it, he's just an insanely skilled combatant. I don't think that he has any specific superpowers, but there are many different options for poses and animations that they could pull directly from the show. The most important thing that I can think of in order to be sure that he stays true to Samurai Jack is to nail his attitude. Each slash in each fight that I've seen comes with such confidence and self-assuredness. Okay, and now I want to talk about Dexter.
Where the elements failed me, here the natural world shall bend to my will and bring me power!
Dexter is absolutely an iconic character for any kid that grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. He was also referenced in the trailer. I actually missed this one until I saw someone break it down on a YouTube video, but this one is one of those real blink and you miss it kind of situations. It's crazy that it's even there. And aside from that, another good reason to think he's on his way is that he has a stage in the game, and on top of that stage, there's a whole rift dedicated to him where he even has lines. Though, he is speaking through one of his creations, and to be fair, it could be anyone else, but come on, we all agree that it would be Dexter using and talking through his robot, right? In terms of moves, I mean, I really don't think it's difficult to imagine for Dexter. The dude's got so many iconic moments from his show, as well as crazy inventions. Just a single shot from his lab could give a team like Player First Games plenty to pull from to create an awesome and faithful moveset. I think it goes without saying that he'd have to be a mage-type character given his gadget usage, but really, with all of his gadgets, the possibilities are truly endless. Okay, and lastly, characters I think that we all agree will make it into the game soon as well, the Teen Titans.
this isn't over.
It's just getting started.
Now, after this poll, if they make it into the living roster, we'll have to do another episode to decide which one of the Titans crew will make it in specifically. But for now, because multiples of the Titans are referenced in the trailer, I think it's only fair that we just reserve a single spot in our living roster. Now, as long as we're all on the same page about that, there is a whole section of this trailer dedicated to Titans Tower that's filled to the brim with references to the Titans, and even an outright portrait of Robin himself. This makes it super clear that the Teen Titans are on the team's mind, and even that they stand a very good chance of making it into the roster sooner rather than later. In terms of moves, I mean, what is there even to say here? Between all of the Titans, and even just the 3 specifically referenced in the trailer, those being Robin, Starfire, and Raven, there is a trove of unlimited options for their movesets. Decades of comics, at least dozens of hours of animated content, and even points from live-action movies and shows to pull from make this team's potential as fighting game characters not only obvious, but exciting. Okay. And with that, we're going to repeat what we did the first episode. I want you guys to pick who you think of these 5 is least likely to make it into multiverses in the near future. Daffy Duck, Neo, Samurai Jack, Dexter, or one of the Teen Titans. You can click on the iCard here to go to our community page on this channel to vote. There, you will see a poll relating to this video at the very top of the page, and it's definitely worth subscribing while you're there just to make sure that you can stay up to date on the results and when to expect the next episode of the Living Roster. This was a really fun one to cover, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and please be sure to get involved in the comments. I read every comment, and I even try to reply to as many as I can. This is a community discussion, so it helps me to know what other characters to talk about and what y'all want to hear about by seeing what you have to say. And remember to use the hashtag MVSLivingRoster on Twitter to get involved there. Alright, thank you everyone for coming by today. I hope you all have a great one, and I'll see you later.